the whole week go, Scott?
I don't know. Hey, where did September go? September just...
Exactly. The days are flying by. We'll have to ask Mellen why the time seems to be going so much faster and what that's preparing us for.
We can do that so easily.
We can.
I've got a control right over here.
You've got a button that you can push.
Yeah.
And push that little lever.
Let's see, I've got the ones turned up that say... Make Scott sound good. I've got those maxed out.
That's right.
And I think this is the important one right here. That's the one that connects to Mellen Thomas Benedict. Hi, Mellen.
Hi, thanks for inviting me to be with you this morning.
We're kind of zany here, so we're going to warn you right off the top of the show here.
We've had our coffee. We're doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, just fine. Been so busy lately. It's just been incredible. The universe is speeding up.
You heard my question. What's going on? Tell me.
Well, it's both mental, physical, and spiritual. What's happening and it's all of one event. Actually, they discovered recently, without doubt, that not only is the universe expanding, but it's expanding. It's getting faster and faster. We're expanding at an unbelievable rate right now. Now, what that means is when they say the universe is expanding, that's the space between every atom.
Oh, my.
So the space between your atoms is expanding at a rate that's unknown to this time in history.
That's why I've got to keep buying larger pants.
Exactly.
Now there's an explanation. It's not the food, it's the atoms and the space between them that's expanding.
That's expanding. That's why we're all tend to be gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also why time seems to be speeding up on us, and this phenomenon is going to become more and more noticeable. And it will speed up to a point in which we come to the eternal now.
And when will that be?
Oh, any time now, in the blinking of an eye.
Oh, come on.
Oh, you can't put an exact date on that.
I know, but you're right, though. It could be a blink of an eye, and we're there.
And in cosmic time, certainly. Mm-hmm. But certainly we're all feeling this entire cosmic expansion. And that expansion affects us in so many ways, even politically. I recently told a group of people that the house of man is coming apart at the seams, but it will not fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's time to let go and grow.
I read a book years ago by Brian Swim called The Universe is a Green Dragon. And among other things, he talked about, I think, a concept that you allude to also on your website, Mellen, that we're all made of infinity, of stardust.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. So we are star stuff, and we all started in the beginning of everything else, and we have survived everything the universe can throw at us, and everything the universe has been through, we have been through. And that's something we should all be patting ourselves on the back for. I mean, it's incredible what we have been through to be where we are, and this is only a midpoint of where we're going.
So we got more fun yet, huh?
And it does get better and better, but that involves one thing I tell people is that higher consciousness requires just a little more effort on your part.
Mm-hmm. And how do we do that? I mean,
well, there's no how to do it. I'm telling people this is how it happens. What is happening in your life? What is happening in the world? This is how it happens. We're in real time. And that's why you've got to pay attention, because we will be tested on these things.
So we get choices every day that we're faced with.
Choices and infinite options. You may not open up to the infinite options around you, and that's just not pep talk. That's reality. There are infinite options around you forever. You may choose not to see all of this, or develop techniques that will make you more aware of this. But the truth is there. I always tell people when they're really down and out, just let's wait and see what tomorrow brings. Let's see what tomorrow brings.
It's been amazing in my life, too, just what a good night's sleep will do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, time's speeding up.
Absolutely.
We're at a pivotal place in our human history.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if we subscribe to that view of being stardust, we've been here before.
We've been around since...
We'll be here again.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it all. Nothing has been lost and everything has been gained.
Mm-hmm. So if I have, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'll just hypothesize. If I've lived many times before, and I will probably live many times again, in this physical density here on Earth, how can I get to a point where I let go of the fear to enjoy the ride, to appreciate the love?
Well, that is the next greatest thing humanity is going to accomplish. It's not going to be spiritual evolution. As I've said before, we peaked spiritually about 2,500 years ago. The next greatest thing humanity is going to do is transcend survival en masse together. That is the next greatest thing that we can do. And for the first time in the history of this world, we are technically there already. There's more energy. There's enough oil and reserves to go for 6,000 more years if we just use oil and coal. But that's not a good idea. There's no energy shortage. It's just...
I got to back Mellen up here.
Okay.
Whoops. I just heard Mellen say that we've got enough reserves for 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh,
right.
Mellen.
But the media says something else.
I'm going to play the really dumb guy. So,
well, don't. He doesn't want us to go.
My producer's back here giggling. He's laughing.
And this is
Jeez.
Is this something new,
Would
Jim?
somebody clue me in? Is that sign still on my back?
It is,
Okay.
and it kick you, yeah.
But I'm paying here in Lincoln. It varies, but it's probably about $2.69 to $2.79 a gallon, and for gasoline to put in my car. I remember Mellen being an older, wiser man. Back in the early 70s, when I played in a rock and roll band and we traveled a lot, gas was 25 cents a gallon.
I was there. I remember 28 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
I swore I was not going to drive anymore when it went to 50 cents.
Yeah. So 6,000 years of reserves.
Absolutely.
That means that somebody purposely is making lots of money.
Absolutely. Same thing with diamonds and all other reserves. There's actually too many diamonds in the world, so they're strictly controlled to keep the value up. And this doesn't work in a Gaia type of system because it puts a false price on these things, and it puts the control into a very few people's hands who really aren't helping the planet that much.
Nope.
We had some guests on a couple weeks ago, and they talked about, Gaia energy and Mother Earth and shifting happening to the point of where currency is going to be worthless at some point. Do you feel that coming down the pipe?
Well, I being an elder statesman myself now, I've heard this stuff every year since the 60s. It's an old harpy song. There will always be some mode of energy transference. Money is green energy and it's transference. No, it's not going to become worthless at all. We have such safety nets. We have such connectiveness that we've never had before on the planet. Like the Great Depression that our parents went through in the 30s was horrible because there was no connectedness. One bank across the street wasn't connected to the next. Now, everybody's in bed with everybody. There's a safety net that's quite interesting in this world now that's going to develop in a very positive way. So whatever happens here happens there. Whatever happens there happens here. And there's an internal safety net that's organically created itself on this planet that is going to stabilize. The big crash in, what was it, 87 or so, was bigger than the crash in the 30s. But who felt it? Only the greedy who were doing all the greedy investing felt it. I didn't feel it.
No, didn't affect me either.
I personally don't believe in the stock market. I think it's an abomination. It's a good way to ruin a good company because you can have a fantastic company and fantastic products. You can be taking care of your people. And the minute you go public, it's not about the product. It's not about people. It's about a bunch of greedy people buying for the price, trying to lower it or raise it. It's completely out of your hands at that point. Mm-hmm. So I consider the stock market to be an abomination of freedom and also of quality and also of caring.
Come on, Mellen, just get it out. Don't beat around the bush. Just
You're kind of vague.
I try Try not to be too political.
Hey, Mellen, can you hold on here while we do our break?
Sure.
I'm sitting here looking at the clock going, uh-oh. So let me do the break, and we'll come right back. And, wow, this is going to be fun. What a fun ride, huh?
Absolutely. So,
I want to ask you, too, I want to ask Mellen if he's going to move to, was it Sweden?
I've been there, and I've got some great stories to tell.
Oh,
Okay.
awesome. Can't
Okay,
wait.
we'll be
do
right back.
music, yep.
And you're going to have to, like, just throw stuff at me, Kathy.
Oh, we are ornery today.
Yeah.
We are. So this is going to be an interesting discussion.
Okay, we'll be right back, folks.
You're listening to KZUM Lincoln, 89.3 on your FM dial and on the web at kzum.org. If you'd like to become a member of Nebraska's first and only community radio station, the number for KZUM is 402-474-5086.
Música para los enamorados. That's right, folks. Fall in love with Latin music. Every Saturday afternoon from 12:30 to 2:30. That's Mundo Latino right here on KZUM 89.3 FM. Check it out.
And I need to also tell you guys and gals, if you're hungry, the Lincoln Boys Choir is holding a waffle feed with none other than the Waffle Man this morning. And it's at the Shriner Temple down there. I think it's on K or L.
Oh.
And
17th and L?
Yep, they're huge Belgian waffles. And I was down there, lots of people, lots of fun. Heard my son Asher sing. And you can go down there, I think, until 11:30 today. So
Get some grub.
Yep, get some good stuff there. Our special guest today is Mellen Thomas Benedict, and we're going to talk about just a whole range of things. That's why we enjoy Mellen so much. His website, after the three W's and dot, is Mellen, MELLEN -Thomas.com. And you can go there and
Check it out. It's a pretty cool site.
a lot to read there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mellen, we're in a point of change right now, and again, I want to come back and have you talk to my listeners about how is it that we make those choices that start adding up collectively? How do we let go of the fear and embrace the love?
Okay. The thing is, it's a non-intellectual thing. First of all,
Okay.
We can't figure this out intellectually. It has to be from the heart, and thank God, every human has a good heart, believe it or not. Even the worst of us has a good heart in the core of their heart. We are now beginning to see and beginning to understand that we're all intimately connected into one system. I'll give you an example that's absolutely amazing about beings, and that is, remember a couple months ago where those 6 miners were lost in Colorado? You know,
Yep.
The whole world was watching.
Right.
And they tried desperately to save them.
Right.
The whole world was watching. This is interesting. 100 years ago, nobody would have heard about this.
Right.
If one child is starving somewhere in the world, we can know about it. This is, you have to be connected before you can actually do anything. So we're in the period of getting connected now, and that's kind of awkward, and some connections don't work and others do. But the phenomenal grace of the human being is astounding. If you've ever watched nature films, there's the mother elephant protecting her baby elephant all night from the lions, and sometimes the lions get the baby, and it's killed right in front of everybody. There's no police call. There's no paperwork. There's no burial. Yes, the animals have emotions, but when it comes to human beings and don't forget that we love life. That's why we make a big deal out of wrongdoing. That's why we make a big deal out of murder. We cherish life like nothing else. It's incredible. And now, with the worldwide systems in place and the satellites and the internet and everything, it's astounding that 6 miners lost in a mine in Colorado. Everyone was caring and rooting for them. Believe me, most people watching that wanted them to live. Mm-hmm. Isn't that incredible?
It is.
And so we've got to think about ourselves in a different light. Most of us, I think, are about 100 or 200 years ahead in our thinking of where we should be. I know I was. When I was a child thinking of the 21st century, I was thinking, Flash Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
The 21st century came and I went, hey, I thought we'd be a little more ahead than this.
Right. Where's my flying car?
Exactly. And I actually thought computers would be a lot better by now, frankly, for the masses. They conned us on computers, basically. They're great for statistical stuff and a lot of technical stuff. But, originally they promised us that computers would save us time, make our lives easier, and give us more leisure time. It's been exactly the opposite. Mm-hmm. And so I think we've got a long way to go in computers, and you'll see this happening also. Completely new kinds of computers coming up in the future, and they'll be online. You won't even have to buy them.
One of the things that I've been trying to follow also that, oddly enough, I believe directly comes from the crash and retrieval of UFOs, is a technology that the user's consciousness is one of the directional tools in the operation of the system.
And that may very well be, but what we do have is evidence since then of things like memory-shaped alloys, special kinds of plastics, and devices that work from your brain waves. I recently bought a brainwave machine for performance artists where you literally can control instruments from this thing you put on your head.
Oh, cool.
You see what I mean? I'm controlling these devices and I'm not even touching them.
Wow.
I've got an old brain machine.
Yeah.
I actually do. It's the IQ3, and it's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. It takes the user into different states that I need to spend more time in. But go ahead, Mellen.
Well, it's just phenomenal that so much has happened since that quote Roswell thing. Mm-hmm. But also never underestimate the cleverness of ancient people, and never underestimate the cleverness of what we can do ourselves. There's a mix there. So, but things have speeded up so dramatically since we split the atom, and that's a key metaphor to remember. When we split the atom, we cracked the cosmic egg, and things have never been the same since. In fact, I think Einstein said after that, he said, everything has changed but our thinking since we split the atom.
Mm-hmm. Mellen, if I could realize that I'm okay no matter what, that takes away a lot of that fear, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I think that's why the near-death phenomenon as a worldwide phenomenon, I was told on the other side it would grow and grow, and it has. Mm-hmm. Getting over the fear of death, no matter what position you're in, if you're homeless or if you're rich in a Manhattan townhouse, getting over the fear of death is really very important. That doesn't mean you become foolish or crazy, but getting over the fear of death is one of the first steps. But also, we need to transcend survival together now. We are at a stage for the first time in history where we can feed, clothe, and comfort every human on Earth, and especially educate every human on Earth to be a superior human being. Not a superior astronaut, not a superior engineer, but a superior problem-solving individual. And this is technically possible now. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible incredible, actually, time to be alive. And so we're in the last days of seeing people like, President Bush and Dick Cheney and these type of characters or dinosaurs. People ask me about that all the time, and I tell them it's not that Bush and Cheney are all that smart. They're not. But I wonder, is it saying that we, the people, are really that ignorant?
Or we just don't want to take the responsibility to change it?
We're going to have to. We're going to have to. These kind of, we're wasting our national resources, and we have to. We have to learn these lessons, and the people have to learn it. The leaders are but a fish in the sea of people. Remember that. But we have so many people in this country that right now that don't even know what it's like to really work for your country. And I'm not a major patriot. In fact, flag wavers kind of worry me a lot because they're usually going to hit you with it if they had a chance. But forgive me for saying that, for flag wavers. But that has led to the rise of fundamentalism like we've never seen in the world before. And forgive me for saying this, but if you listen to everybody from the Jews to the Muslims to the Christians, every single preacher, every single Ayatollah interprets their Bible in a completely different way. There is no uniform interpretation of any of these books.
Right.
And it's just these individuals interpreting very, very sacred stuff in very twisted ways. And so what we have is, if everybody says God is on their side, from even Adolf Hitler believed God was on his side, then that makes God meaningless all of a sudden. Think about it for a second. So that says, well, what do I really believe in? What is my concept of spirituality? Because I tell you, every church you go to, that minister is interpreting the Bible in a completely unique way to him. So what does this mean? It means it's chaos now. We're going into a transition phase of spiritual insanity. And we'll survive it. No, but the thing is just remember what in Alice in Wonderland, what the dormouse said to Alice when she entered? Keep your head. It's very important in these days.
Mellen, it also means that there's a God who so loves us that we're allowed to do this.
I don't even think it's that from what I saw on the other side. God is a very simple word for this universal essence that we are directly a part of. And so you have to take the responsibility. What I'm saying God is telling me to do is what I'm doing. If God, how many times has God told people to kill people? You see what I mean? How many times has God told people to heal people? You've got to bring it down to personal responsibility. And if you can't love your brother, come on now. If all you think about is loving God and you don't love your brother and your sister and your mother and your father, get real.
I think part of that inability is because that they've made choices between love and fear.
And then those choices quite often, because of our evolutionary history, have been based on survival. That's why it's so important for us to transcend survival, because until we do that, we're all compromised. From the richest man on earth to the poorest person on earth, we are truly compromised as long as we are stuck in survival. And forgive me for saying this, but in a world of survival, true integrity is so expensive. Few of us can have it 100% of the time. It's almost impossible to do the right thing.
That was pretty weighty what you just said. I caught part of that.
Think about it. In a world of survival, where your job depends on other people, where your existence and your self-image depends on even what kind of job and money you're earning, is completely artificial as to who you really are. So in a world of survival, integrity is a very expensive thing. And most of us are compromised. I admit that. I think we should admit it to ourselves. For many people who hate their jobs, hate their bosses, and there are people working in extreme situations, from the diamond mines in Africa to the cubicles in New York City, who hate their jobs. Their bosses abuse them. The corporation abuse them, but they can't walk in the boss's office and say, "Hey, man, you're a jerk." They'll get fired, and then there goes their survival. So once we transcend survival, you are going to see such a spiritual and heart evolution that we have not seen on this planet. That's why it's so important now to get involved, in the resources of the earth. Who owns these resources and why? It is so important right now that we transcend survival more than anything else and get people out of survival. What I saw on the other side was that most of our past has been non-industrial, almost all of our future is non-industrial, and I was told that there will never again in history be more jobs than there was then. That time is over, and we're making the transition. The politicians don't know how to deal with it. The church doesn't know how to deal with it. They don't even want to talk about it. They always keep talking about we've got to create more jobs. Well, there's a limit to that because of the resources on the planet. And what you've got to think about now is a new future for humanity in which most people actually will not be working. And I know there's a lot of people out there that goes, well, I'm not going to work all my life and support other people. Think about that for a minute. Maybe it isn't really that way. Maybe there's something else bigger about to happen with humanity than jobs and profits for board of directors and things like that. And I'm not against money. I think money is the green energy of our time. But until we transcend survival, we are going to be incredibly compromised. I think one of the great lessons I learned is that if you're one of the lucky ones on planet Earth that figure out how to get out of survival and get sustained in a world in which you're not worried about survival anymore, and there are many people that are like that on this planet. I mean, they're not even counting billionaires anymore. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The spiritual nature would be, if I transcend survival, what's the first thing I should do? I should reach out my hand and pull the next one through.
It's about service, being of service.
Absolutely.
Well, this then, Kathy and Mellen, brings up the point that I believe that there are vested interests that are going to actively resist that and fight that because of their greed, because of their desire to control the chips on the table. So how do we do that when there are people that don't want us to do that?
Well, that's not just a human nature. It's nature in general. There are stars that are bullies. There are monkeys and tribes that are bullies.
I almost spit my coffee out. That was great.
You know what I mean?
Stars that are bullies.
Yeah. And it seems like, the bigger you get, the more gravity you have, and the more stuff you suck up. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing with wealth. Once you get about $50 million, money has inertia. Money makes money. And so you become like this planet that's growing, and the bigger you get, the more gravity you have, and the more you attract things to you. And this is why rich people are always surrounded by people, by hordes of people. But basically, we have, for the first time in history, the chance to all of us to really interface now through internet communications. We do have access to more law, and we do have access to channels of making green energy or money than we ever have had in the past. It's there, it really is. And you could go infinitely with stories of people that started out with nothing. In any country, in a small apartment in Moscow to a small apartment in Bangladesh, people have become rich with their imaginations, with their talents they didn't even know they had. But remember that the kind of world we're living is very, very natural, actually, and we're transcending out of it. We're not that far out of the jungle. In fact, I look around at a lot of human activity, and I just call it monkey business. Mm-hmm. We're still in the monkey business phase. Mm-hmm. We have to wake up. The funny thing has happened. If you look at the Congress and you look at what's going on in the world, it seems like the person on the street has got more sense than people in government. And so, it's amazing. And so it seems like the only ones that are lost now are our leaders. And that happens in transition phases. Our system has run its course, basically, and has to change. And it will change organically and I believe in a very peaceful way. Although there'll be a lot of arguments and a lot of beating of drums and things. But basically, we're coming into a new world now in which all of us, if we just do a little bit more, can make this happen. I'll just say one more thing about that. In talks that I've done over the last year, people say, what can I do, Mel? And I feel powerless. I said, do you have a phone book? I mean, we're given free phone books. I go, yeah. I said, have you ever looked up in the government pages in the phone book? There's a list of every number and fax number of everybody that touches your life in government, from local to federal. Here's what I'm asking people to do. If you want a real revolution, you don't even have to get out of your pajamas. I'm asking everybody to fax, email, or call the representatives in your phone book once a week. Forever. You can't do it once. You've got to be consistent. If we would start just doing that, I wouldn't presume to tell anyone what to believe in, but what I am saying is whatever it is you really believe in, now's the time to believe in it. And you have more access now than you've ever had in history. So if you would just put your bias into the system, put your thoughts on emails, faxes, phone calls, and be polite and be nice and be respectful, and just do it once a week. Imagine if millions and millions of Americans did that every week. That is what's really going to change things.
Making the people that are elected then accountable.
Exactly.
Directly accountable to the people.
And this is what we're all about, really. And this is what the world really wants. And it really is something beyond democracy. And that is evolving. Something really, really holographically humanistic and holistically balanced. Here's something I also talk about, and that is, it's really funny if you look at the world situation that people, we can't get food to starving people, but we can always get bullets to them. Mm-hmm. It's the same. It's the same logistics: loading the food on an airplane, flying it somewhere, putting it on a truck, and getting it to somebody. But we always run out of food, and we're throwing away food here in great amounts in America and in Europe. We're just throwing food away because we want to keep the prices artificially where they are. But we never. There's no problem getting bullets to anybody. And forgive me for saying this, but America must wake up. We are by 300% above anybody, including Russia, the biggest weapons dealers in the world. So I'm saying, I wish Michael Moore would do a movie on this. Who is making the most money off the bullets? Can someone find that out and email me? Who is making the most money? Because these are private companies. Mm-hmm. And who is the board of directors of these companies? And who are the investors in these companies that can always get bullets to the worst people on earth? Most of the bullets killing our soldiers in Iraq are our bullets.
Yeah, and you can go back through World War II, the First World War, and you can find that there were deals made by what were then fledgling corporations that were playing both sides of the field because of profit. Mellen, how do you feel about professional politicians? You raise this topic of politics here. It's my growing sense that to return to a democracy that's really responsive to the people, we need to elect somebody for a short term and get them out of there.
Well, I've looked into that, and frankly, and if my stats are wrong, somebody correct me, but actually the turnover is around of people actually don't return to office. They're either voted out or whatever, but it's that core of people that get in there for 30, 40 years ago that should not happen.
Yeah, we had a glitch there in the signal, apparently. We didn't hear that figure that you mentioned there. What was that, Mellen?
Well, some of the stats I've seen about elections, both local and, state and federal, is that about three-quarters of people are not reelected for one reason or another. So there is quite a turnover, actually. But there is a segment of the most powerful people that got in there, stayed in there, that became their life. But I'll tell you what's more important than that is bureaucracy. Presidents and governors and senators come and go. But look at the people who's running the State Department, and they're in there forever.
Well, local government.
and they're in there forever, and they see presidents come and go.
Exactly.
Look at the American foreign policy for the last 150 years, from the Spanish-American War to taking over Hawaii to this moment. And, I'm someone, and I come from a military family. My father was Green Beret, medal winner in Vietnam, and he came back from Vietnam. He said, "Don't go. This is it." He got out of the military, and he was an honored veteran. We shouldn't be wasting our resources, and we shouldn't be wasting our blood. I mean, our great sons and daughters for these escapades that make the world look at us and go, Americans are very dangerous people.
Yeah,
we don't feel dangerous.
Well, and it's about people getting off their duff and saying this is enough.
Well, and I think we need to focus on the State Department and the bureaucrats that are in there longer than any presidents. I mean, look how long J. Edgar Hoover was in office, and he blackmailed every president. We know that now for a fact.
Unfortunately, going back again to what we just talked about the armaments people, it's my belief that a lot of these world conflagrations are actually decided, pre-designed, and carried out to benefit the pocketbooks of these folks.
And that's only natural in the old system. It must change, because it's not doing most of us any good, is it?
What we see right now is we see transition.
Yeah, exactly.
We see old paradigm desperately trying to hang on, and there's some exciting new stuff coming, huh?
Oh, yeah. One thing is that America did have to go through this kind of, we have to end this kind of a policy we've had for 150 years on other countries. We must. A patriot without conscience is a fanatic. You have to have a personal conscience between you and your God, not you and the president, not you in an order to go kill people. Because, ignorance of the law in court, you can say, I didn't know it was illegal to kill people in court. Ignorance of the law is no protection, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, in the law of karma, in the court of karma, ignorance of karma, the law of karma, is no protection from the innocent or the guilty.
Yep.
So when it comes down to that moment, we're supplying the world with these weapons on credit, basically. Us taxpayers are paying through the nose for it, and we're getting ready to send over $2 billion more weapons to Iraq. One thing I'd like people to ask in these presidential elections is that we know for a fact that George Bush believes in the end of the world in his life. He's one of those. Why would you want somebody like that leading your country? And we should ask these other people, do you believe the end of the world is coming in your life? And be honest with us. Why should we elect someone who actually believes that?
Interesting.
I know these are questions that are never asked of these candidates. See what I mean? And I think it's an important question. It's not about, I don't care if they believe it or not. I want to know if you believe it. That'll help me make my decision.
Now, when you stay right there, we'll be right back with more great conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to comment and ask a question or offer your point of view, our phone number is 402-474-5086. Our special guest is Mellen Thomas Benedict, and Mellen's website is after the 3 W's and dot, MELLEN-Thomas.com. We'll be right back. Scott and Kathy exploring unexplained phenomena. 23 years, Kathy.
I know you're getting old, man.
I'm getting good. Finally.
Yeah, there you go.
You're listening to 89.3 KZUM Lincoln, where you gotta have the blues. If your man is personal, won't you have your fun?
Support for programming on KZUM is provided by The Mill, offering coffee, teas, candies, and accessories. The Mill is located at 800 P Street in the historic Haymarket and at 4736 Prescott in College View.
And we're back here, Scott Colborn and Kathy, and our special guest, Mellen Thomas Benedict. Kathy, you raised a question off the air about sacred biology.
I did. I thought that was one of the most intriguing bits of information we learned about the last time you talked to us, and about that's the space between the atoms, right?
It's part of it. That's one of the great things I learned on the other side, in the phrase I coined called sacred biology. A lot of our taught us for so long that the body is a tool, a vessel, a machine. Get rid of it as soon as possible. Your reward can't be here. It has to be in some seventh heaven somewhere. What I learned on the other side, which is one of the reasons why I fell so much in love with humanity again. Before I died, I believed humanity was a cancer. I no longer believe that at all. I see just infinite positive future for us. But sacred biology is getting back to basics. Your biology is absolutely a sacred piece of your being. It's not separate. It's not lower or higher. It is a fundamental part of your consciousness and spirituality. I've been on the other side, and I've often told people the other side's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not nearly as interesting as this side in many, many ways, because on the other side there is no continuum. You are where you think you are. And there are a lot of things you can't do if you don't have organs. Excuse me. But sacred biology is imagining the magic of the body you're in right now, no matter what shape it's in. If you can just look at your hand right now, this body you're in has never known death. You weren't born from something dead. The body you're in right now has already been alive forever, and it knows this. And it will reincarnate, and it knows this. There are several layers of reincarnation. Having children is a form of biological reincarnation. You have a spiritual, your subtle energy being, which is, by the way, subtle energy physics. Now, what I learned on the other side is that there's nothing really metaphysical in the universe. It's all sacred physics. And your thoughts are quanta. Mm-hmm. Your emotions are quanta. They can be read wirelessly by machines. That means something's emanating from you that's actually affecting a machine across the room or across the world. This is real stuff. There are infinite realms of, and infinite realms of subtle energy. So there's infinite realms of dense energy, from the darkest dark to the lightest light, and it's all self-organizing, and so is our biology. So I honor my body, and I'm not a health fanatic and this, that, and the other, but I honor my body, and I am present with my body now. And I think so many people on the planet are not present in their bodies right now. A lot to do with the sort of the trauma of childhood. It's amazing. Most of us survive our childhoods, actually. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Especially in third world countries where things are so desperate. What is happening to these children? And any one of those children, which is a part of our sacred biology, because, every human, technically, not metaphorically, is the same being. Right. We share the same DNA, no matter what color our skin is. We are intimate, and to let one child live a desperate, dark life is so sad in the sacred biology that we're living in. I think one of the greatest untold things, and I've done some research into this, I think one of the greatest untalked about, untold things on planet Earth is childhood depression. Childhood depression can take the spark out of life forever. Mm-hmm. And it can happen early. You can be shut down early in life and never actually be alive again, technically speaking.
We talked about that last week with one of our guests, and she's a painter, and she talked about how her parents inspired her and continued that spark within her to create. And I asked her, I said, and if it doesn't get inspired, if you're not inspired as a child, can you lose that? And she said, yes.
It happens more often than not, but it's one of those things that so many of us go through, and the minute we get away from it, usually the minute we leave home and get away from it, we sedate it, we forget it, we don't talk about it anymore, we don't discuss it with each other, and it becomes forgotten and left on the next generation of children. This is so important for humanity to realize this underlying serious childhood depression that's in the world, even in the most developed countries. This needs to be looked at, because that can take the spark out of life, let me tell you, and affect you the rest of your life. And in sacred biology, you want your body to be healthy, you want to be happy, but you also have to be more than love yourself. That's important. But you have to, love the rest of us, because the rest of us are you. And we all add conscious, evolving being that right now we can't even imagine in any real way. We only have inklings of what we're about to become. But think about it. Any one child you save from starving somewhere, whether it be in America or Darfur, that may be the child that later on would have the answer to cancer, would have the answer to free energy. Mm-hmm. Any one of these children we're wasting could have the answer, any one of them. So everyone's important. They really are, in the most incredible way. So sacred biology is not only thinking of your own biology as sacred, finally. Your body is a temple, and it is sacred, and it's been alive forever and knows that. And the other part is that because the systems are so redundant, we do reincarnate, and reincarnation is a part of this. And it gives great hope, because you can't do everything in one life, but you can do everything in your great life that you're living. You're living a great life that every particular individual life you live, and everything you call a death, is but a day and a night, and a larger life that you're living.
Now, wouldn't sacred biology also include the fact that we are all connected in terms of energy and matter?
Absolutely, and this is becoming more and more evident. You know, there's been great experiments about one breath from one human being. One breath from one human being, the oxygen going in and the argon and all that going in and out, in 1 year goes completely around the planet, and everybody's breathing that air. We're breathing the same air that Christ breathed. It didn't go anywhere. It's still here. We're the same atoms. This is really sacred stuff when you really connect and you really get it. And I've often said, when you really get this, you're going to love it.
I should send you the link. A friend of mine, Frank, sent this to me about 2 weeks ago about experiments on the atom, where they were able to take an atom and take aspects of that and separate it, and then put each part at a distance and induce a cause in one part, and the other part of that atom showed that effect.
Yeah.
The theory is that if you can do that from a foot or two, you can also do that with that other part being in France, if you want to go to France.
And that brings me right back to my favorite guy on earth, Cleve Baxter.
Cleve Baxter.
Primary perception.
Tell us about Cleve Baxter.
He's my favorite human on earth. Cleve, I was on the other side. I was given some names. Once I realized I would be coming back, I was given some names to look up, and I was told to look up this Baxter, who I had no idea. But around 87 or so, I met Cleve Baxter, the guy who discovered plants have feelings in the 60s, The Secret Life of Plants. And then he went on, another book was written about him later called The Secret Life of Your Cells. Cleve, I was told on the side that Cleve had discovered one of the most important discoveries in all of human history, and he would be known for it at some point. In the future, he's considered a saint. But Cleve has discovered and has done elegant experiments in San Diego on exactly what you're talking about, that connects all of these Bell's theorems to the holographic universe, to superstrings. It connects all of that in what he calls primary perception. And you check out his website, primaryperception.com, because his experiments show that there seems to be no distance is not a problem. There are realms faster than the speed of light. And listen, we have to go faster than the speed of light to get anywhere nowadays. Because even at the speed of light, you can't even explore our galaxy.
Wow.
It's too slow to do anything, really. So Cleve has discovered this realm that is faster than the speed of light. It's instantaneous without any time lag. And this opens up completely new realms of how, this explains how shamans can talk to a plant and the plant communicate to the shaman what it's good for. This explains why people can be psychic. This explains why you can do distant viewing, why you can do out-of-body travel. It has such implications. And the future of primary perception for communications and for exploration of the universe, and also for us to, we're very soon, in fact, they're developing these things around Cleve now, these devices that you can have fairly cheaply in the near future, where you will be able to communicate with your plants and animals.
Yeah, Mellen, let's say that the listeners who started the program with us are still here at this point, and I think the majority of them are. Let's say that we've all come to this point. Now, what can each of us do to start welcoming this new way of viewing ourselves and our interrelationship starting today? What can we do?
Pray. Really. And I don't mean religious prayer. I mean, I pray 3 times a day, and what it is my positive affirmations. The most important thing the individual can do now, no matter what your life is in right now, whether you're on the bottom of the hill or the top of the mountain, is hold a good thought as much as you can during the day. That is so positive in the etheric realms, in the your thoughts actually affect the earth. So why believe in the end of the world? Why believe in things you don't know are going to happen? Why repeat bad stories about bad things? The worst thing you can do is spread a bad idea. Why do that anymore? Why put negative things in your head when you have a choice? So the very first thing we can do is reestablish prayer in our life, and that can be prayer can be positive affirmations. Another part of prayer can be sending healing energy out to the planet. This really does have a subtle energy effect that's building and building and building. That is important. It's building and building, layer upon layer. Then the other thing I said is pretty much open your phone book and start calling people. You have access, you're paying taxes. It's not their money, it's our money. It's our money. So whatever it is, the most important thing is whatever you believe in, now's the time to believe in it. And you don't have to do that much, but do a little. It will all add up. It really will.
The date of 2012 is coming up, and I have heard a number of people say on some well-respected radio shows that it's a pretty negative thing. What do you see for 2012? Is there any significance to that date? Is that a date that somebody sometime pulled out of the air? Is there indeed going to be something happening on or about 2012?
Well, the Mayans had great mathematics, and they invented 0, which is pretty important, and the Indians in India invented 1. So that's the basis of the binary code of the life we live today.
When I played volleyball, my jersey was 00.
Was it?
Uh-oh.
That wasn't your IQ, thank God.
At least it wasn't snake eyes, right? But the 2012 is, and forgive me for saying this is rubs anybody the wrong way, but all of these people predicting doom and gloom are making money off of it. Pretty much. I mean, let's be honest.
It's fear.
And they have a history of books they've done in the past, and they're on this bent.
They're selling fear.
Exactly.
Right.
And paranoia is a very rich club to belong to. I mean, it's a very juicy club, paranoia. And it is very profitable. I mean, it goes from the 2012 stuff to George Bush. But the 2012 is significant in that it really is the end of a major cycle, a 26 million year cycle for us and the Mayans, which we have completed a circuit completely around our galaxy. We are coming to the middle part of our galaxy now. We're transitioning to it, so things are getting a little denser. You're going to see we're coming up to a solar maximus by 2012, which means more sunspots are facing us. So there's going to be more solar storms. There's going to be more motional activity going on. All of it very natural, but it was never meant to be the end of anything. It's the beginning of a completely new paradigm, which for some of us started 100 years ago, and for some of us it'll be 100 years from now. But it actually marks, it's a milestone. And I was shown on the other side that all legitimate ancient prophecies end at most of our lifetimes. The 2012 is one, and then the very last you could even consider legitimate would be 2060, which is Isaac Newton's prediction of the end of the world. After that, all this New Age stuff and all that is just redundant. But all this is about is we're coming to the end of the world stuff. That the world is not going to end. I'm telling people, prepare for the world not to end. That's a little trickier.
Exactly.
But the world, I once had a picture taken of me on the street where I had one of those signs that said, prepare for the world not about to end, and people were looking at me, but it was just for a photo.
It puts them on the hook again.
I know.
It really does. When they're preparing for the end of the world, they don't take responsibility for anything, whether it's pollution, their thoughts, whether they care about someone or not. But if there's not going to be the end of the world, that puts them back on the hook again. That puts them in responsibility mode if they choose to be. So.
And we have examples of this all around us. Bush believes the world will end in his lifetime. So what's the first thing he did when he came into office was kill the Kyoto Treaty. Mm-hmm. He just killed ecology. Tried to. Because why bother? This is all not going to last very long anyway. But what is happening? The new paradigm is a paradigm now of self-initiation, and where all of us are beginning to get that create your own reality is real. That's the new paradigm that's coming up. That's why our politicians from the old world can't figure this out, aren't getting it. They seem to be out of touch. That's why the masses are moving in this direction, from the smallest third world country to the largest, most powerful countries. We're realizing now that our leaders aren't that smart. They never have been that smart, and that we better get interfaced. And this is what happens when you have self-fulfilling prophecies. I mean, the Mayans believed the world was going to end, and one Spanish guy shows up on a horse, and it was over. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when I'm ever around somebody that really believes the world is going to end, I get away from them. I know something's going to fall on them.
You know what? That's really interesting. The people that are so into that club may themselves be drawing that energy to their own lives.
And at number one, when you put out whatever you put out, you're getting more of it than anyone else. When you put out love, you're actually getting more of it. When you put out hate, you're getting more of it than the person you hate, because you're the generator. So it makes no sense. And quite often when someone tells me they do believe the world's going to end, I say, do you really want to believe that? I mean, you can't prove it. The world has not ended. The universe already, in the last, 4 billion years this planet's been around, the universe has thrown everything it can at us, from planet-sized objects to 90% extinctions. We're still here, and we're moving on, and forgive me if this rubs anybody wrong, but we're in better shape than ever, honestly. This Iraq thing will come and go. You remember World War II?
Yes.
But most people don't. That's funny. 55 million people died.
Incredible, yes. Mm-hmm.
And hardly anybody remembers it now, except the few veterans and people like ourselves that were, I was born, right after that. Mm-hmm. I was in Germany as a child right after the war with my, military family. And I remember being in Germany when all the buildings still had bullet holes in them. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I saw cathedrals still in ruins. I never forgot those images. Of course, all that's been patched up now. But
so it's transition. We've got the old paradigm clinging on, trying to sell the fear, trying to make the big buck while it can.
And remember the Watergate papers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The key phrase there is follow the money.
Yep.
These are the people causing the problem.
So, Mellen, one of my theories has been that that God works in such wonderful and mysterious ways that perhaps some of these very people at these places of power that are making these decisions may themselves start to have life experiences that cause them to question their motives, their agendas. So it could very well happen from within.
Absolutely. I've often said, pray for President Bush, pray for Cheney, because they are so lost, they can't even tell the truth to themselves. Think about that.
And we have the power to change that. If people take, there is that sacred biology. We have the energy to make things shift. And it's about taking the time to do it.
So there is this great wisdom that says, don't curse anything, bless everything. Mm-hmm. Bless your fears, bless your enemies. Don't curse anything.
That's part of our prayer that my kids and I say each night, is that we bless all of our friends and relations, and we also bless our enemies.
Mm-hmm. I mean, can you imagine at the subconscious level the dreams President Bush must be having? All of the death. And I tell you who must be having really strange dreams is Henry Kissinger, if you know his history.
Well, Mellen, think about this now. And this is a whole another program, and The door's always open, my friend. I hope you know that, sincerely. What if George Bush volunteered to come in this time around to do what he is doing, so that we all are provided with these incentives to choose and make choices?
Well, in a way, there's no overall intelligent plan for all of this, because we were given the greatest gift of an open-ended universe and an open-ended life. So, but George Bush is a product of the churches he went to, the family he came from. They all have a history. Check it out. You can see exactly where he came from and how he was programmed and what he learned to believe in. And frankly, we're starting to see now that there's clear evidence that he doesn't even believe in what he believes in anymore. There's clear evidence showing that, because he's turned out betraying everybody.
So pray, and when you can, each of us do, just like the Boy Scouts talk about, do a good deed.
Absolutely. And here's another thing I do. Why wait for the Pope to bless you with holy water? Why wait for the Dalai Lama to give you some kind of, blessing? Take it upon yourself to bless everything. Just spend a little time each day blessing everything you see in your life, from what's on your desk to who walks in your room to when sometimes I'm in a car and driving down the road and it looks like I'm waving, but I'm blessing everybody and everything as I drive. And people connected, they actually look, they get like a sparkle in their eyes. It's almost like, the Pope going down waving his hand at everybody. Mm-hmm. Each and every one of us has that same power. And so quite often when I'm just driving down the street, I've got one hand up, looks like I'm waving, and I'm just blessing everything I see. And everybody, the guy sitting waiting for the bus, the children on the school bus, the vagrant, the businessman.
There can't be any road rage then, because you're in a peaceful mood. And if you're stuck in traffic, you're just blessing everybody.
And that's another thing I teach in my workshops, and that is how to reduce stress in the world is, number one, you have more control over that than you know. Sometimes when somebody cuts in front of me, and you want to yell and scream at them, they never even saw you. How many times has that happened? They never even saw you. They didn't know you existed, and yet now you're freaking out. Well, that's just lowered your immune system.
Right.
And the other thing I've learned is that sometimes if somebody in front of me that's going too slow or whatever, I actually look, and it's this old person who's struggling. So why should I get on the horn and completely freak out this person who's already completely stressed out by driving his car? Just be kind and get around them if you can, but don't completely freak people out because they're in your way. Take a look at them and see, oh my God, that guy's old, or that guy can't see, or that mother's completely stressed out with the children in the car. And I was once at a stop sign with a mother that had a whole back seat full of children, and she was yelling at them. And I swear she turned around, and I don't know how she did it, but she smacked every one of them with one move.
I've seen a Three Stooges movie like that.
And she was so stressed out, I said, oh my God, I hope she gets home safe.
And then you bless her.
Oh, yes. And so if you're going to reduce stress in the world, you have a lot to do with that, both in your own life and with everything you see in your. I try not to get angry first. I try to understand what's going on and realize that's not about me. Quite often when people are mean to you, have done things to you, it was never about you in the first place. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. It was about them.
Mellen, we've reached the end of our time together here again. It's gone by quick.
Just like we started the show. Time's going by fast.
Well, just bless everything out there. That's one of the most important things you can do. And interface. Believe in what you believe in.
Yeah, take your power back. You do have power.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's do it again, Mellen.
I'd love to.
You have a great day.
Okay, blessings to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Mellen.
Okay.
Bye. Our special guest, Mellen Thomas Benedict.